Say, welcome to Sales Funnel Radio. Oh yeah, baby.
Welcome to Sales Funnel Radio, where you'll learn marketing strategies to grow your online business using today's best internet sales funnels. And now, here's your host, Steve Larsen.
Wasn't that cute? Hey, that's one of my little girls. She's so awesome. We have a lot of fun together. She is one of my heroes. Hey, so right now, my wife is at a Tony Robbins event. Crazy cool, super awesome. I honestly wish I was with her. I wish that I could be there, but we have two little girls, little angels, and so one of us has got to stay. And I love that stuff already. Like the stuff that Tony Robbins teaches, I already eat that stuff up. I already love that stuff. You know what I mean? It's super, super fun. And so I kind of already am in a lot of the mentality of that. I believe I can do anything. I think I can change my own destiny. I think I can control, everything around me. And so I was like, you know what, you go. And it's really cool because she actually went with, maybe, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this or not, but she went with some of the wives from people at work. And we got them like front row seats, and it was awesome. It was super cool. There's 9,000 people there, and she's loved that, and she'll be back soon. So I am 4 days with the little ones, and it's been a long time since I've dropped a podcast out to you guys, and I was like, oh crap, I should probably send that on out. So thought I'd let the little one start us on out here, but a lot of cool stuff going on right now. So my little campaign to end funnel building is over now. And if you didn't get the application in, I'm sorry. Like there's so much going on with ClickFunnels right now. I cannot do anything else with that. So, and I'm trying to figure out how to say this. This has been on my mind a little bit lately. So about 3 years ago, right? And a lot of you guys have heard the story. If you've been following my podcast, right? I would get up so early and just study and learn, do as much as I possibly could, right? And I remember, I thirsted. It's all I thought about, right? I stayed up till 3 every day. I had a notebook. I should find that notebook someday. It's really, really cool. But it's a full notebook. Every single line, every single page, all the things I was learning, I was drawing pictures of it so I could understand it more. I'd go find somebody else, be like, oh, I learned this on this podcast today, and I read a book from this guy today. I thirsted. I did everything that I could to just learn marketing, right? And I remember after about a year-long period, and I had tried a few things here and there, but I was more like in this deep, just thirst state. You know what I mean? Where it's just drinking deeply. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm in this marketing degree, but I'm not even getting the stuff in my marketing degree that I'm learning from these books and from these podcasts and from these, quote unquote gurus and stuff. The real cutting edge that's actually working, right? The stuff that's actually working in the marketplace. And I remember I was biking home one day, and I might have shared this with you before, but it was a big moment for me. I should say it was a big, 3 or 4 days, because it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I was biking home, and I was in Rexburg, Idaho, and for some reason there, it's always like 50-degree-mile-an-hour winds both ways, no matter what, in the winter, in the summer, all the time. It's just windy. And so I was biking home, right, and I was pushing hard against the wind, and I was breathing hard, and I loved that because I could listen to podcasts and stuff while I was biking all over the place. We only had one car, and I didn't want my wife to not have a car with little babies. So she always had the car, and I just literally biked all over the city there. And it was really, really awesome, actually. I love biking. And this is not motorcycle like I have now, like a pedal bike. And I remember I was biking, I was breathing hard, and I was listening to Pat Flynn, the Smart Passive Income podcast. And what's cool is that's actually the podcast that got me started online in general. And that's when I wrote my first ebook and I got all the stuff together. But before I did all that, I was listening to Pat Flynn. I think I was just hearing who Russell Brunson was. I was just hearing about some of these other guys, but I was drinking as deeply as I could. And about 6 months, 8 months, I can't remember when, but a while, right? And I had kept this pace up like crazy. I mean, you could not get me to go that hard for my schoolwork, for anything else, right? Just this topic. And I was learning and learning and learning. And sorry, I keep saying that and I'm getting right up to the point, but I just want you guys to know, like, more of the state I was in. I was just so hungry for success. I remember writing down, if I can only make an extra $100 a month, it will change my life, because then I could pay for bills, then my cell phone would be free. Then, you know what I mean? Like that's where I was, right? And you guys have heard like our story where we were trying to figure out how to even eat. Like, that's not a joke. That was very real. That challenges your manhood, right? And so it's all I thought about. It's not like I took a break. Hey, what'd you do over this weekend? I freaking learned. What'd you do? I tried to make money. What'd you do? I tried to be successful as I could be, right? And that's totally where it started. And that's all I thought about. And if you think you're in this game and you think you're pushing as hard as you can, but you're constantly thinking like, oh, I just can't wait to get home so I can do nothing. Like, your heart may not be in it. You know what I mean? It's easy to see once you've gone through that path. It's easy to look back and see, you know what? That person's not giving themselves. I can tell that they are not in it. You know what I mean? But then they come and they're like, well, why am I not being successful? It's like, it gets a little annoying. You know what I mean? And I know that you guys listening to this podcast know what I'm talking about, right? If you're listening to a podcast and you're doing all this stuff, that you are most likely like me. We're probably very commonly, we probably think very similar thoughts, right? And so I was biking home, and I was crazy skinny, but I was lifting as hard as I could also, because I knew that, a lot of exercise meant a sharp mind, which means I could take in more stuff and stay up later. And anyway, so back to the story, okay? But I was biking back, and all of a sudden it hit me. Oh my gosh. I know what he's talking about in this podcast. And yes, I would do this, this, and this, and this in that scenario, but dang it, like I don't have a product. And then I'd be listening to another section like the next day and I'd be like, oh, check this out. Or I read a lot while I was walking, which sounds so stupid. So eventually I switched to audiobooks. But I would read in between classes just as fast as I could, just getting principles down. Then I'd turn to some random person and teach them what I learned in the book. That sounds stupid, but I know that when I learn for two, that my learning is deeper. Right? And then it sticks longer. I literally imagine myself standing on a stage teaching it to somebody. I still do that. I do that to this day. I've done that for years. And I think it's one of the reasons I've been able to capture things and keep them in my head so long. I learn for two, learn for two, learn for two. That's one of my mottos. And I had this huge realization. Wow. I mean, I've been studying this stuff like crazy. I've been doing all this stuff, but I don't have a business to do it to. And I was like, why did I not think about that? Oh my gosh. What on earth? Like, that's almost sounds stupid, And it was good because I call it the age of exploration, right? And I tried all these different businesses. I learned like crazy, but I didn't really have a business that I was going both feet in on. I didn't really have a product, an area that I was going both feet in on. And I realized, like, wow, this knowledge is great, and the things that I'm learning is fantastic, and wow, I just learned how I can increase conversions over here by 15% and drop my costs on this part over here, and I learned how to set up fulfillment. I learned how to, here's a whole nother marketing arm I could put out there, and I was like, but for what? I don't have a freaking business. And I got really, really frustrated, and I was like, where do I start? And a lot of you guys listening to this are feeling that. You're like, man, I got all this knowledge. I'm listening to all this stuff. I'm consuming as much content as I can. And that's good. You should do that. You should feel overwhelmed. It means that you're basking in complete immersion, right? Like, feel overwhelmed. Get as much content in your brain as you possibly can. But I also get it. Like, where do you start? What do you do? How do you actually create something where someone's going to give you money. You guys know that I have that asset that I've always talked about, right? That it's just an MLM funnel, but it works really, really well. It still makes me $1,000 a week every week. It's been doing that for like 7 months now, 8 months now. And it's been awesome. I mean, it's how we have the down payment on a house that we want to get soon. You know, we're thinking about it, and it's how we want to do X, Y, and Z over here. It's how we want to cruise. It's how we're paying off debts. It's besides my other income. It's super awesome. And you guys I know that you're thinking that. You're like, how do I do this? Or you might already be making that money and like, how do I make it grow? Right. And I had, for some reason, this whole memory came flying back into my head recently. And I realized, because my wife and I were talking, and she was like, you almost seem stuck. And I said, we were laying in bed, and we were talking, and she's like, you seem stuck. She's like, you have lived at this obscene, out of balance pace for like 5 years now. And I was like, yeah, I know. And I want to start taking care of my body a little bit better. It's easy to do that when you're an entrepreneur. You just give everything. And it's easy to see why, if someone's not giving themselves, it's really easy to see if someone's not actually all in, because they're not giving of themselves. They're not willing to risk sleep and a little health. They're not willing to risk missing a meal. They're not willing to, you know what I mean? It's really easy to see that. And we were laying there, she's like, you seem stuck, for the last month or two, you've just seemed that way. And I was like, you know what? I'm trying to figure out. And I was trying to explain to her, and I told her about the time going on the bike and realizing, oh my gosh, I don't have a product. And I threw myself in to trying to figure out a product to sell. And the idea did not come from me. You personally do not possess the creativity to create a marketable, amazing cash flow, machine on your own. And it sucks to realize that, but you don't. You don't have that creativity. And so I got my idea when I was in the throes of study, constantly trying to figure out cool stuff, looking at all the sellers, looking at competitors, buying products, trying to figure out where I could fit in the ecosystem of the business I was choosing. And that's when I got the idea. I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And I was explaining this all to her. This is like a couple days ago. And she's at the Tony Robbins thing right now. But anyway, we were talking and I was explaining to her, like, and I had the realization I don't have a product, but then I figured out a product, and then, oh my gosh, it works. And I was thinking $100 would change our life, but, then it was like $500 a month, then it was like $1,000, then it was $2,000, it was up to $5,000. Then I remember my first $11,000 day, and it was like, oh my gosh, and it's so exciting, and I'm so excited for you guys to have that if you haven't had it already. And if you have had that, like, relish those. I mean, those are huge moments. I'm striving for my 6-figure day now, right? I've had my 5-figure day. I'm looking for the 6-figure one, but anyway, she was saying, I think you're stuck, and I was telling her stuff, and I told her, I am realizing right now that I purposefully, and I did this on purpose, I purposefully stopped studying. Remember, like when I was on the bike and I was realizing, oh my gosh, all this stuff's going on, this stuff is cool, but I need a business to actually do this stuff too. I made a decision to stop learning, all right? And that sounds stupid, it sounds ridiculous, but I started practicing what I called just-in-time learning. Just-in-time learning is the type of learning where you're just sprinting until the lights go out, and you're like, okay, now how do I get the lights back on? What's the next idea? What's the thing that's going to keep me going? Okay, I'm running into this specific problem. I can't even figure out how to resize an image. Okay, well, that's the next piece of knowledge you need to go for, right? Just-in-time learning is so key because there's so much stuff out there, and there's so many things out there that can keep you guys from keeping progress and keep you from, moving forward. You can get bogged down really, really easy. And I think I've said this before, but even Tim Ferriss in his book, The 4-Hour Workweek, says that reading after a certain amount of time dissuades the mind from its creative pursuits. I think that's the exact quote maybe. But he says it dissuades you. And the reason, it's good to read deeply. Drink deeply, my friends. My gosh, I'm not telling you not to learn. I'm not telling you not to read. But there's a time for action and there's a time for learning. And I stopped this whole big gulp of information and trying to figure out how to sort it and go, figure out what I needed and what I didn't. And I started practicing just-in-time learning. And it was super, super powerful for me to do that. Very, very powerful. But the realization I had when my wife asked me that, we were laying in bed and she's asked me that question, and I was going through this whole thing, and I said, you know what, for a long time I've practiced this just-in-time learning thing, and that's worked for the last 2 years, when I realized I needed to actually take ridiculous action and throw myself and give myself for the product, and I did, and it's worked, and it's working, and it still is, and it's sustainable, and it's been fantastic. I mean, it's like clockwork now. It's so cool. I just know it's going to happen. There'll be a few times where it's like Saturday, and only $800 is coming in. And by the time it's midnight, though, I've got another, $400 or $500, and I'm like, what the heck? Like this, it just works, and it's been great. But I'm realizing that to scale it and to pull it to the next level is going to require a different type of knowledge, and I need to start this deep learning thing again. I need to start this hardcore, really, really deep, intense knowledge, this big drink again, this big quench again that I was doing before. And what got me, and it's such a cliche thing to say, but it's so true, and I'm realizing it right now, what got me here is not enough for me to get to where I'm trying to go. Right? I got here and I learned all that stuff and learned the knowledge, and I know how to build funnels. I know how to get lots of traffic. I can make sweet products. I can tons of automation. I can find out what things in the marketplace will sell well. I know how to sell now. I know all this stuff and it's great. And it's a huge, it's a massive asset. But in order for me to scale, that's a different problem set. And I have not spent the time yet learning personally how to scale it. Now, I can do it for Russell all day long because he has the team. He's figured out that. Right? And that's what I've realized sitting down. I was sitting down at my desk, and he was right across my computer sitting at his desk. And I was thinking about it, just kind of subconsciously what I was going through. But also it hit me. I was like, he has figured out this problem, because I know he doesn't like to do, what this next problem set requires. So he hired someone out, and he did this and he did this, right? So I hired an assistant, right? I'm trying to train her to take care of these pieces, and I'm running into the problems. It's the next problem set. And so the big aha that I had, the thing that I'm trying to say to you guys right now is realize that you need to drink deeply, but there are times for there's times for these really intense learning periods, but then there are times to just stop because that creates noise and just go take immense, ridiculous action and practice just-in-time learning. Okay? And that'll get you through these big phases. That'll speed up your progress like crazy, because you're not focused on, I got to read this book in order to be successful. Tell me you haven't thought that. Well, I got to read this book first so I know how to do it. It's like, that's bull crap. 99% of the time, that's not true, right? After a point. If you've never ever done anything ever, then probably read the book, so your mind starts to get opened. But you guys understand what I'm saying? Like, does this make sense? Does this make sense what I'm trying to say to you? You have to do big periods of drinking, big periods of execution. Now, I'm about to go back to a big period of learning. And so I just spent like $300 on books, and I looked at Russell's bookshelf, and I looked at all these others, the best sellers. I want to learn from the best. I want to learn from the best people on the planet. And so that's what I'm doing. And so what I thought would be kind of cool, and I know that it's been like 2 weeks since I've released this podcast, but I've been waiting for these applications to come in for me to build funnels, and I've got a bunch of them, and I'm going to start sifting through them and see which ones I can build for and see which ones aren't going to be a good fit and all that stuff. But I'm realizing, like, really, I could keep doing that the rest of my life and make a great living and make great money. But there's this extra problem set that is starting to emerge that I didn't know was there. And I wouldn't have known it's there unless I was sitting in this position. And that's all I'm trying to say to you guys, is that realize that wherever you are, there's another problem set that's starting to emerge. And that doesn't mean you need to deal with it immediately. Make sure that you're still systematizing as much as you can and getting it out there. But it's literally, have you guys ever heard the book? It's funny, I'm asking like you're in front of me. But it's because I'm imagining I'm on stage. I do that all the time. I do it for my podcast. I do it for everything. When I'm about to tell something to Russell, I try and learn it as if I can, teach in front of a stage and keep it more interesting for him. And anyway, do that. A lot of little nuggets I'm dropping in this one, but I got to stop it here soon. But have you ever heard the book Ready, Fire, Aim? It's literally on a plaque above our door at the office. And Ready, Fire, Aim is a book that talks about the problem sets and the skills that are required to go from $0 to $1 million, right? And that's what I'm trying to do. And I know I'm going to get close to it sometime soon, and which is awesome. It's super cool. But this is what I'm talking about. It's a total different problem set, because in the book, the next part of the book is going, okay, and how do you take your business from 1 million to 10 million, right? And this is a different problem set. And you don't really think of it like that usually. And then from 10 million to 100 million, and there's the problem set. And those are the skills and the habits required to actually hit that level. And it's funny because those aren't things that I ever learned or was taught in my business degree, but like, why the heck not? I mean, that's really, really powerful stuff. So anyway, guys, think where you are in this path. Be deliberate in where you're standing. If you are in a learning phase, be in the learning phase and give yourself for it. If you realize that you've been in the learning phase too long and not been executing, which is one of the pains a new entrepreneur needs to experience, then realize that that's where you are, own that place, and take a step forward, right? Stop learning. I guarantee you could learn the rest of your life and never take any action. Stop learning, go take action. And while you're taking ridiculous action, you're giving yourself for the product. You're giving yourself for the customer, trying to make it as cool as it can be. There will be little tiny problems that pop up. Okay, then that's just in time learning time. All right, that's when you just needed to go create little tiny pieces of learning so that you can overcome the specific obstacle that you're in front of. Right? Anyway, I've been talking a long time, and I hope that all makes sense. But realize where you are, own that place, move forward, and start pointing out and naming and recognizing the problem set that's in front of you, and then just solve it. I can't even remember who said it, but he said that you can. The quote is something like, "You can measure the success of a person by the number of problems they have solved." Okay? If you haven't solved the problem of how to keep your house orderly, you're gonna have a hard time running a business. You know what I mean? Not that that's directly correlated, because sometimes I think that's crap. But you know what I mean, though? It all kind of weaves together. Like, if you can't feed yourself and wipe your own butt, like, you're gonna have a hard time being successful. You know what I mean? There's like certain problems that you gotta go solve. So anyways, be problem solvers, my friends. Solve fast. That's how you fail fast and learn fast. That's all tied directly into it as well. But anyways, super excited. Mrs. is coming home very soon, and can't wait to hear about how the Tony Robbins event went. And just been playing with the little kiddos here. I thought, man, I owe you guys a podcast. And it's been a little while here, so sorry about that. But so many cool things going on. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait to tell you guys a little more about what's going on. So stay tuned to the next one. And I already know what it's going to be about because it is sick. Anyway, we'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Sales Funnel Radio. Please remember to subscribe and leave feedback. Want to get one of today's best internet sales funnel for free? Go to salesfunnelbroker.com/free funnels to download your pre-built sales funnel today.